All right. As I mentioned, my name is Heather Fay, and I am excited to be here this morning as this event is a partnership with Botetourt County, the Farm Credit of Virginia's, and Roanoke Regional Small Business Development Center. And we have several collaboration partners with us today. With Visit Virginia's Blue Ridge, Virginia Cooperative Extension, Farm Bureau Insurance, and Beaver Dam Farm Sunflowers. And we have several folks that are still joining us, so we will go ahead and get started. The Roanoke Regional Small Business Development Center offers no-cost advising, low-cost training, free tools, community events, and local partnerships to help you with your business. Our center is funded in cooperation through the U.S. Small Business Administration, supported by the America's SBDC, Virginia SBDC, and George Mason University. Our matching fund is provided by local administrations, economic development offices, local organizations and businesses that are all small business champions. We thank you to our hosts, the Roanoke Regional the Roanoke Regional Chamber of Commerce and Botetourt County for providing this opportunity for me to serve as the Botetourt advisor. Our center currently serves the Roanoke Valley, New River Valley, and Allegheny Highlands. As we get started, I would like to introduce Luke Campbell with the Department of Economic Development for Botetourt County to share a couple of remarks with us this morning. Luke?
Hi, everyone. Pleasure to be here. Ken was not able to make it. He had some other things come up, so I'm here representing the county in his stead, but it's always a pleasure to come to these events, and especially when they're led by Heather. Good to see you again.
Good to see you. Thank you so much for being here, Luke, and for your kind words. And next we have Scott Stevens, who is a loan officer with Farm Credit of the Virginias, to share a few remarks with us. Scott?
All right, I'm going to try to share my screen.
All right, I'm going to stop sharing mine.
Okay.
Stop mine. Can you?
I'll tell you what, if not, just if you can go ahead and cue mine up, Heather, mine won't take but a few minutes.
Sure.
So.
Absolutely. Just 1 second here. Get this going. All right. Get back to my Zoom. All right, Scott, I think we're ready. Can you see that? Everybody see that?
All right, so as Heather said, I'm Scott Stevens. I'm a loan officer here in Roanoke, Virginia at the Farm Credit Office. Farm Credit's a national network of lending cooperatives, and the key word there is cooperatives. I'll explain that in just a little bit, to serve rural America. And certainly our mission is to serve as a primary lending source for folks in rural America. Sometimes they're challenged to have financing opportunities. We understand those challenges and try to help with funding opportunities there. Part of the cooperative structure is the fact that we actually return back a percentage of our profits back to you as a borrower member. So essentially the interest you pay from January to December is turned around and actually returned back to you, which essentially lowers your annual interest cost on an annual basis. Next slide, Heather. As I said, I'm in Roanoke, Virginia. As far as the territory Roanoke serves is Roanoke, Botetourt, Craig, Allegheny, Floyd, and Montgomery. We do have an outpost in the Floyd, Virginia branch as well. As you can see through the map there, Virginia is actually split in 3 different territories. So again, I'm out of Roanoke.
Sorry.
But we do have different offices throughout the state of Virginia and West Virginia to serve your needs. All right, Heather, next slide. And as far as the loans that are available, essentially everyone needs operating and expense assistance. So operating loans to help with daily expenses on the farm, any inventory you might need, things along that nature. We do offer programs for young, beginning, and small farmers. So young meaning an applicant that's under 35 years old. Beginning is just that. You haven't farmed before. So we want to try to help you work through the process there. And a small farmer.
So sorry.
That's okay. But I'll continue to talk, and if you catch up, that's fine too. But small farmers, we consider anyone that's requesting a loan underneath $250,000. Provide lending for livestock and equipment, real estate purchases, unique properties where other banks are sometimes afraid to reach out, barn dominiums, yurts, just single wides, double wides that other lenders generally don't try to finance. We understand that need and try to help you for up to 30 years of financing for that piece. Next slide, Heather. Traditional lending, again, short-term, intermediate, and long-term needs. Short-term is anything less than 12 months. That's for essentially line of credit that you might need that pull off the line through the given year. Intermediate term loans are 1 to 5 years for equipment purchases, livestock, those type of needs. And then as far as long-term lending, anything greater than 5 years, we call those real estate loans, essentially to purchase raw land, an existing farm, and then certainly do allow a lot of funding for mortgages for primary home residents up to 30 years as far as those type things. So essentially that's what I do as a loan officer here to help you. And Kylie, I'll hand off to you to kind of talk about our Knowledge Center real quick.
Great. Well, thank you, Scott. So it's a pleasure to be back with you again this morning. And as Scott mentioned, we thrive with serving rural America here at Farm Credit. And our association is a little bit unique to the Farm Credit system, as we do have an educational arm, which is known as our Knowledge Center. And this center was developed about 8 years ago. And really, we serve as a network agent. We try to connect our producers as well as our member borrowers to educational resources that are ultimately going to aid in their success. So they don't trust us with the checkbook. We leave that to folks like Scott. And we're here to make those connections for various resources across our footprint. Everything from business planning to financial management to risk management tools and strategies to beekeeping and niche markets. So we are here to be a resource and to be a value-added resource for our association. And certainly I would encourage you to check out our website. We have a Knowledge Center tab with tons of resources on there, as well as we're so thankful for the opportunity today to connect with so many other partners across the state. And that's the great thing about being a network agent, is connecting those resources to those producers within the state. So thank you, Heather, and I will turn it back over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kylie and Scott, for being here. All right, I'm going to stop sharing my slides. And our next presenter is Libby Pricer. Livvy is our Agriculture Natural Resources agent for the Isle of Wright County, and she will be talking to them. Livvy, are you good to share your slides, or do you need me to share them for you?
I'll go ahead and try.
All right.
Can you see that?
Perfect.
All right, let me see if I can get in presentation mode. All right, still hear me and still see good?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, good morning, everybody. I'm Libby Pricer. Like Heather said, I am the Agriculture and Natural Resources Extension Agent in Isle of Wight County. I work for Virginia Cooperative Extension, and I also work with the state agritourism programming team. So today we're going to talk a very broad overview of Virginia agritourism. I could talk about agritourism for hours, so we're just going to hit some highlights and then I'll answer any questions as possible. So we're going to talk about what agritourism is in Virginia, the importance it has in the Commonwealth, the impact it has throughout the state, some opportunities, and then answer any questions. So what is agritourism? Agritourism is when you combine two of Virginia's top two industries, being agriculture and tourism. This is the state definition. I'm not going to read it all, but the highlighted is the most important: an activity carried out on a farm or ranch for recreational, entertainment, or educational purposes, whether or not the participant paid to participate in the activity. This is very, very important. A lot of my questions revolve around this definition, and it's very important that we realize that it is on a farm or a ranch. I will tell you that some cities and counties have further definitions for agritourism. So if you are working with producers or you yourself are interested in agritourism, please check with your local county and city and see what their agritourism definition is, just to make sure you align with theirs and the state definition as well. This is a pretty dated picture. It's from 2013, but I'm a visual learner, so I wanted to share this. This is from This is agritourism operations throughout Virginia. So as you can see, it touches every part of our state. So it's very, very important to our economy, and I'll touch on that a little bit later. So you may be wondering what types of agritourism we have in Virginia. These are the most popular that we have throughout the state: bed and breakfasts, trail rides, breweries and wineries, fall festivals, corn mazes, hay rides, you picks or cut your owns, farm stores and markets, and of course, weddings. The picture to your right is from a 2017 economic and physical impacts of agritourism in Virginia. This breaks up the state into regions. And of course, we're focusing on Botetourt, so we'll be in the Virginia Mountains region. And as you can see, again, it touches all parts of our state. There's agritourism everywhere, even on the Eastern Shore. So why are producers turning to agritourism? Producers are looking to diversify their farm, having some income coming in all year round. They're trying to market their farm products, and they're trying to share a lifestyle. As we all know, the general public is 3 or more generations removed from the farm. So they're wondering where their food and fiber are coming from, how it's made. They're trying to make that connection back to the local food movement and their roots. They're providing a service or opportunity to the community, having availability of good food, fiber, and wine, and bonding with family and friends. They're all offering that type of experience. Now, why are folks coming to agritourism operations? Well, they could be looking for that education on where their food and fiber is made. They want to experience something new. They just want to get out and enjoy the outdoors, as we found over this past year. That's been very, very crucial with COVID. They're looking for something fun and entertaining to do, whether they're taking their dog or their kids or their family, or they could just live close by or passing through, so they want to visit with their friends and families these operations. These are some agritourism attractions that I've worked with. College Run Farms is in Surrey, Virginia. They are a U-pick operation. They used to do strawberries. They continue to do pumpkins. They have a farm store on site. They offer ice cream. They have produce and stuff picked already, or you can go out in the field and pick your own. This is another picture of a vineyard in the valley. They did a farm to fork dinner in the orchard. And Grace Mountain Lodge is in Madison, Virginia. They're another agritourism attraction. They have a lodge there. They also do lots of festivals and concerts, and they have a farm there as well. The next picture in the bottom left-hand corner is a farm here in Isle of Wight County that I work with. It's Windhaven Farm. When you pull up, you actually see the cows, and then you go to the meat market. And this is an old horse stable that they converted to a meat market, so you get the full effect of farm to fork. The next picture is P&A Homestead. They're in Southampton County. They're one of the newer producers I've worked with. They are offering a bed and breakfast. They have a U-pick blueberry operation, and now they're getting into providing local meat and eggs through farmers market and through online sales. And then the next picture is Jeter Farm, actually in your area. Ned and Rose Jeter are great resources when you have questions about agritourism. Candace is also another great resource. So if you guys are interested in agritourism or have questions, please reach out to your local agritourism operations. They'll be happy to help you in any way they can. So now we're going to talk about the impact of agritourism on Virginia. This is from that 2017 study. This is just talking about what agritourism brings back to the economy in Virginia. It supports 2.2 billion economic activity, supports 22,000 jobs, supports 840 million in wages and salaries, and 134 million in state and local taxes. So it's a very important industry in our state. Over the past few years, agritourism has grown, doubled, almost tripled in our operations throughout the state. So it's becoming very, very popular. This is the inventory from that same 2017 study. In the Virginia Mountain region, you have 24 farm-based wineries, vineyards, breweries, and distilleries, and then you have 94 other agritourism venues. So if you haven't been to an agritourism operation, please look them up, check them out, and please go visit them. This looks at the visitor spending in your region. You have local visitors that came, and then of course non-local visitors. And I won't read those numbers, but both are pretty significant for your area. So with anything, there are opportunities, and I don't say this to scare anybody. This is just education that I want people to be aware of. When you're looking at agritourism, you need to be conscious about liability, insurance, and safety. For when you're inviting people to your farm, it's always a safety concern because folks are unfamiliar with agriculture. Again, they're 3 or more generations removed from the farm, so they're not familiar with tractors. They're not familiar with what we do on a day-to-day basis. Folks may be looking for a babysitter, so they may not be watching their kids or things like that, and could cause problems. Folks are easily distracted. We have our phones with us all the time. We're on Snapchat, Twitter, things like that. Very easily distracted and can cause safety concerns. Then we have those folks that the rules don't apply to me. So if you have signs, they may not read them. They may go past things. And common sense is dead, or as my husband likes to say, farm sense is dead. So we need to make sure that we are posting signs and making sure that people, you know, where they can go, where they can't go, what they can do, what they can't do. And this is the Virginia liability sign. It can say warning or attention. This is a file that you can get printed. VDAX used to print them, but due to budget concerns, they don't print them anymore. The lettering does have to be black and 1 inch thick. I encourage every agritourism producer to put this in the parking area where you're buying tickets, the agritourism activity itself. Have it in multiple places, and I'm sure Scott will touch on this more on the insurance side. If you are having an agritourism operation, you need insurance. You must have insurance. Scott will talk about this in a little bit. And walkthroughs. This is something that ties into safety. You need to do a walkthrough of your operation before you open to the public, because something that may not catch your eye may catch somebody else's eye. And so you need to invite your insurance agent out, your extension agent out, or somebody from your community, from your church, to come do a walkthrough of your operation to see if they catch anything that could be a safety concern. Maybe a sign fell down, maybe, you know, there's a hole in the fence that you didn't notice. So please do these walkthroughs on your operation. And this is, do walkthroughs and training. Training is very, very important. I spent a couple years working on a master's degree for safety and agritourism in Virginia. And so this is something I really like to press on when we're talking about agritourism. Please train your employees. It's great that you're hiring, you know, maybe some high school or college age kids, but please train them on emergency procedures, you know, what to do if a child who goes missing, gets hurt, where's a first aid kit, you know, how to call 911. Just please train all of your employees. Signage is very important on the farm. It needs to be in word and pictures. A lot of our agritourism farms have little people coming on and they may not be able to read yet. So it's very important that our signs are both in words and pictures for those folks to understand what we're trying to communicate. Bilingual is also another plus, depending on your area. And then your farm layout. If you have an agritourism operation, please think about your farm layout. Are you going to be able to get a fire truck or ambulance into that operation if there is an emergency? Is there a place that a helicopter could land if need be? Just think about all of these aspects when you're thinking about your agritourism operation. These are some of the signs that I was telling you about. This is our extension website. And then this is also another website that I like to encourage people to visit, safeagritourism.org. They have those walkthrough sheets and they have all of these signs that you can download and take to a print shop and get printed out. They have several different other ones, just depending on your operation, what you need. As you can see, their pictures, they're very eye-catching, they're bilingual, and they're both pictures and words. So please check them out. So if you are looking to start an agritourism operation, we need to start off with a business plan. Several folks are here to help you with your business plan if you need help. Farm Credits of Virginia, like Kylie said, SBDC, Extension, we're all here to help you with your business plan. Think about the layout of your farm. You know, is it going to be conducive to agritourism? Do you have place for folks to park? Do you have a place for a bathroom? Are you in the middle of town? Are you way in rural Virginia? You know, are people going to come out and see you? These are all things you need to think of before you go into business. Check your zoning and planning. Make sure that you are in coordinates with all of the local regulations. Make sure you have all the permits that you may or may not need. Make sure you have that insurance, check that off with your insurance agent, do that walkthrough multiple times a year, and visit other agritourism operations near you. See what they did, what worked for them, what didn't. And also, if there's already, 5 pumpkin patches in your area, probably not the best idea to start a pumpkin patch. Just see, what people will come and support you doing. Partnerships are key, and I'll touch on this in a little bit, but if you could work with other agritourism operations in your area, it would help your marketing. Or if you could work with farmers markets, other agricultural producers, it would help your marketing in your business venture. And of course, have fun. Agritourism operations are supposed to be fun, so please have fun when you're doing all of this. So this year has been a twofold for agritourism in 2020, as everybody knows, with COVID. So we have had some operations that did phenomenal through 2020. They adapted, they took this on, and they rocked it out. Then we've had some folks that actually had to shut their doors or, had to abide by the restrictions, so they didn't do so well in 2020. These are some pictures from local farms here in our area. And we've seen an increase in PPE, mask, hand sanitizer, washing buckets in between having folks coming out. We've seen people addressing picking stations or having a row that they could pick. Your family picks this one, the next family picks a few rows down, staying 6 feet apart. This picture with the milkshake is one of our local barbecue restaurants. They partnered with our local strawberry patch, and they brought in strawberries and did a strawberry milkshake kind of, niche thing for their restaurant. And those partnerships are key, especially over this year. Restaurants industry hurting, agritourism was, hurting as well. So having those partnerships to be able to market your product is very, very important. This next picture, when it says the playground by reservation only, this is at Richland's Dairy Farm in Amelia. So again, we had to adapt to everything that was going on with COVID, and this is some great examples. So we had to expand PPE, like I said, with masks and hand sanitizers. We saw a larger social media presence. Everybody was on Facebook or Snapchat and, saying, this is what we have, come see us. This is when we're open, we're already picked out, make sure you're wearing your mask, things like that. We saw an increase in website applications. So we saw a lot more people turning to sign up for a certain time to come out and pick, or buying tickets to come out to the orchard and things like that. So we saw a lot of our agritourism producers really up their game on website and social media. We also saw a lot more virtual field trips. Since the kids couldn't come to the agritourism farms, we brought the field trips to the classrooms through Zoom or through videos. A lot of farms created videos and sent them to teachers. The teachers shared them with the class. So they really adapted to everything that was handed to us this past year. Something new that we had to adapt to was also ticketing programs. So with the restrictions, we had to limit a number of people that were on the farm. So we had to start selling tickets in some operations. And so that was something new. Some agritourism producers liked it, some folks didn't. And then we had to increase our informational signage, of course, saying 6 feet apart, PPE, did they offer curbside? Did they offer delivery, honor system, things like that. And then, of course, we saw a really large increase in our local food interest because, as we all know, the grocery stores were picked clean and folks were looking at other alternatives. So we saw an increase in local food movement. So these were all things that happened to the agritourism industry in 2020, and we're continued to adapt. The Christmas tree folks, they saw an increase in Christmas tree sales because people were decorating early, they were decorating later. Some folks still have their Christmas tree up. It's just what we had to adapt to in this past year. And that's it. It's a broad overview of agritourism. Again, I could talk all day about agritourism, but that's just a little bit. I'm in Isle of Wight. Again, I work with the state program team. Happy to help anybody with agritourism questions. My email, phone number, please reach out to me. If not, please check out our Extension Agritourism page. And if you'd like to be added to our listserv, I can add you to that as well. And I'm going to turn it back over to Heather. I don't know if we want to do questions now or wait, so I will turn it back over to you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Livvy. That was very informative and gets all those juices flowing and excited about opening an agritourism or expanding your current operation. And we will take questions at the end. So our next presenter we have is Scott DeNoon, who is the Farm Product and Underwriting Manager for Virginia Farm Bureau Insurance. All right, Scott, we are ready when you are.
Okay, it's good to be with you this morning, and I'm going to attempt to share my screen. The key word in that sentence is attempt. And we'll get started, hopefully. Can everybody see it? Are we good?
Yes.
All right, and can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. First of all, I'm going to kind of take off on what Libby said. As I'm going to give you a very, very broad view of liability insurance and agritourism this morning. I could talk for an hour and a half on the importance of liability insurance and agritourism, but again, we will have time for questions at the end, and I'll just say after this is over, if there's something I don't cover, don't hesitate to reach out to me. My contact information will be on my final slide. So again, I'm going to just cover at a very high level liability insurance and agritourism. Really, the insurance piece as far as agritourism goes, and I've been working with agritourism professionals for about 15 years, and 15 years ago, liability insurance was the least of people's worries. It was almost the last thing that people talked about. Fortunately, through presentations and programs such as this, the work that Virginia Cooperative Extension has done, providing educational opportunities for agritourism providers to hear about how to plan for successful agritourism operation, it's become a more relevant topic. The University of Vermont did a study last year. Well, I take that back, from the end of from about the middle of 2018 through the early part of 2019, through the early part of 2020, pre-COVID, and 80%. They surveyed approximately 1,800 agritourism providers from across the nation, and 80% of those respondents said that liability insurance was a major concern for them. So the message is getting out there as far as the importance of liability insurance goes. What is liability insurance? Essentially, it's a risk transfer mechanism. It's a mechanism where you, the agritourism operator, or a premium, you pay a premium to an insurance company, and the insurance company in turn agrees to protect you or cover you in the event of any damage or injury that is that takes place as a result of your operation. In addition to covering damages, it'll also cover any type of defense costs, because of the society we live in today. It's a very litigious society. If you don't believe me, go home tonight and watch. I say this a lot. From prime time, from like 6 to 8, 6 to 9, watch TV and see how many personal injury attorney commercials that come on the TV during that time period. An overlooked portion, an overlooked part of the liability insurance package is the defense cost coverage, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go forward. The base policy, the base farm liability policy, is composed of 3 parts: the premises and operations part, products liability part, and the medical payments coverage part. And I mentioned that there's an incidental coverage for defense costs, and we'll talk about that as well. When I talk about premises and operations, I'm essentially talking about damage or injury that is caused as a result of your operation or your premises. In simple terms, from an agritourism perspective, if you have a U-pick operation and a third party comes on to your property to pick strawberries or blueberries or whatever, and there's a container, maybe there's a container in the walkway, and that person trips over that container and breaks their ankle, this is where premises and operations liability coverage comes into play. It covers and provides protection for bodily injury or property damage as a as a result of your operation or in connection with your operation. The next part is probably the most important. I won't say, let me back up. I won't say most important. It is the most, I get more questions, we get more questions about product liability now than we ever had before. And essentially what product liability is, it is legal liability for damage or bodily injury that is done as a result of your defective product. That can be a raw product, it can be a processed product such as baked goods or meat, any type of value-added product, but product liability. And again, we get more questions about product liability because when it comes to the insurance policy, when it comes to product liability in general, there's a lot of confusion as to what is covered under the policy, under the base policy, and what is not covered. So I'm going to get into that just for a few minutes here. Pretty much the base product liability coverage that's available under a farm liability policy will provide product liability coverage for a raw, unprocessed product. So if you have an apple orchard and you sell apples, you just a basket of apples, a bucket of apples, and someone gets sick as a result of eating those apples, the base policy, the base product liability coverage of that policy would respond. Where confusion exists is, and that product liability, that base product liability coverage ends, is if that product is altered in some manner. And when I say altered, I talked to an attorney, and an attorney has said altering that product can be as simple as slicing that apple and having it available for someone to eat. Likewise, if they're processing those apples to make apple butter, apple cider, apple wine, that product liability coverage, that base product liability coverage is null and void once you change that product. So the key thing to remember and the key thing to ask your insurance provider is, what does my product liability coverage cover as far as my products go? Now, the good news is if you are altering product in some way, you're altering those apples, you're altering grapes to make wine or whatever, you can coverage is available by either endorsing or adding a rider to your current policy, or in some cases, some companies will have will write a separate product liability coverage for that particular product. So again, keep that in mind. Product liability also, and the reason it's become such a concern is either the user of the product or others affected by the product can file a lawsuit. And one thing about product liability, and this is a question we get a lot of the time, well, not only am I selling my product, but I'm selling my neighbor's product. So it's my neighbor's responsibility to have their product liability coverage. True, but in a product liability lawsuit, product liability attaches to every enterprise in the supply chain. If a product liability suit is filed, it's going to go all the way back. And I hate to keep using apples if we have any apple producers on the call, but it's going to go all the way back. Even though the consumer may have bought apple juice at Walmart, that product liability suit, when it starts getting researched, it's going to go all the way back to whoever grew those apples, whoever processed those apples, whoever packed those apples, all the way back. So even though you may be selling a third-party product, even though you may not have produced that product as the seller, there's a good chance that you may be part of a product liability lawsuit. So it's important. That's why I have people tell me all the time, well, I'm not going to worry about the product liability for the third-party products I sell. That's a huge, and as my example just illustrates, that's a huge mistake, because you can leave yourself open to being unprotected in the event a product liability suit is filed. And again, as you process products, as you pack products for direct sale, that increases the product liability exposure as well. As far as Virginia goes, Virginia is pretty liberal when it comes to product liability, in that a lot of states impose strict liability, which means that it doesn't matter if you were negligent, if you did something wrong to contribute to the damage or injury, because you sold that product, because you produced that product, you are automatically considered to be negligent or liable. Virginia doesn't do that. In order for liability to be imposed for product liability in Virginia, you as the producer, you as the seller, you as the packer, whatever, you have to be negligent in order for product liability to apply. So in that respect, Virginia is very liberal when it comes to product liability. Some concerns about product liability: the number of claims have grown, the amount of the awards that claimants have been getting or injured parties have been getting as a result of product liability suits has increased greatly. And as I just stated, if you're selling food product, if you're doing it at farmers markets, or you're selling directly to the public, either over the internet or at your own farm market, that greatly increases your product liability exposure. And that's why people are so concerned about product liability, and if they have coverage under their policy, and the scope of that coverage under their farm liability policy. Another thing to be aware of when it comes to agritourism is what I call the business exclusion in the base farm liability policy. The base farm liability policy does not cover bodily injury or property damage resulting from activities related to a business. Now, the farm liability policy does not define farming as a business. Even though we know it is a business, the farm liability policy does not consider farming to be a business. It says, for the farm policy, business is any trade or profession or occupation, full or part-time, other than farming. A key thing to remember when it comes to the business exclusion, to ask your insurance provider is, how does my policy define farming? Most policies, but not all, define farming as you see here: the production of crops, the raising or care of livestock, and some, but not all, say the operation of roadside stands and farm markets maintained principally for the sale of your own farm product. So if you had some companies, and my company is one of them, we consider the operation of a roadside stand where you're selling your raw farm product, or you're going to a farmer's market, even if it's operated by somebody else, and selling your raw farm product. We consider that to be farming, and we consider that to be covered automatically under the base policy. But then it goes on to say, farming, it does not include other retail activities. And this is where agritourism and a lot of agritourism events come into play. This is not an all-inclusive list, but any of these activities are excluded from coverage, from liability coverage under the base farm policy. It is viewed as an activity other than farming. Even though it is agricultural related, it does not meet the definition of farming as defined by the policy. So if you're operating a corn maze, or you have a fall festival with hay rides and pick your own, or you're doing a haunted attraction in October, or you're opening your farm up as a wedding venue or a bed and breakfast, it's important to let your agent know, let your insurance provider know what's going on. The good news is, and years ago, if you did one of these things, a lot of companies would say, well, we either can't write you, or we're going to charge you an arm and a leg as far as premium goes, and we're going to you're going to have a separate policy through a specialty carrier. The good news is, over the past 10 years, the farm liability marketplace, especially as it relates to agritourism, has improved greatly. In a lot of cases, these events can be covered by adding an endorsement to your existing farm policy. Or in some cases, yes, you still have to write a separate policy, but they aren't nearly as expensive as they were, say 10, 15 years ago. So another key thing to ask your agent, ask your insurance provider is, how does my policy defined farming. Again, just a kind of a quick review. Questions for your insurance provider. How does your policy define farming? Do my agritourism activities fall within that definition? And does my policy provide coverage for my product, raw and processed? Those are key questions, and those are questions to ask your agent. And another thing, as far as your agent goes, I always recommend that if you have an agritourism operation, you have your agent come out as Libby was saying, and have that agent walk your property with you, explain to them what you're doing, explain to them what your operation entails, so they have a clear understanding of what's going on, so that they can design a policy and tailor a policy that that meets your needs and make sure you are covered in the event something unforeseen does happen. Couple other things, couple other coverages to be aware of that the farm liability policy provides is medical payments coverage. I call this goodwill coverage. This coverage is paid without regard to fault. If you look at your insurance policy, it's going to have a separate line item for medical payments coverage. Sometimes it's 1,000, sometimes it's 5,000. And the reason I call this good, this is the reason I refer to this the way I do, as is that if someone trips and falls on your property and they turn their ankle and they have to go to the doctor, as I said, it's paid without regard to fault. The chances are, if you have a third party that comes onto your property and gets injured, if you can pay their medical bills, whether it be $1,000, $5,000, $2,500, if you can pay those bills up front without having to determine fault, without having to determine if there was negligence involved, the chances of them filing suit against you are greatly reduced, as opposed to an investigation having to take place and you have to determine, well, who was at fault, and it's a long process. In this particular case, these medical payments coverage, the key thing is it's paid without regard to fault. And the reason is, hopefully, by paying those bills up front, you're not gonna have to worry about any type of lawsuit later on down the line. I mentioned this before, claims and defense cost coverage. It's an incidental coverage of the farm liability policy, but probably one of the most important, because if you do have a suit filed against you or against your operation, we all know that legal costs are very, very, very expensive. Attorney fees, court costs. If the event is covered by your policy, and here that last bullet point is key. For defense cost coverage to apply, the claim must be covered by your policy. That's why it's important to ask those questions. Are my products covered? Is my operation covered by the policy? Because if it's not covered by the policy, if it's excluded under the policy, no defense coverage is going to be available to you. How do you protect your operation? Take an active role in your insurance program. I know it's not the most attractive thing to do. Believe me, reading insurance contracts, finding out exactly what the contract says, it's not fun stuff, but read your policy and invest the time to better understand your coverage. Again, meet with your agent at least annually to review your coverage. Have that agent come out to your property and walk the property. You pay them for that. That's part of your premium, is you are paying them for their service and to make sure that they are providing you with good, sound insurance advice. Make them earn their money. Again, make your agent aware of all activities taking place on the farm. There's an old saying, people say, well, what you don't know, or rather what they don't know, can't hurt them. Well, in this particular case, when it comes to agritourism and insurance, what they don't know can hurt you, because at the time of loss, if they didn't know you were operating a hayride or operating a pick your own operation, and something happens, something bad happens as a result of that operation, and the claim is not covered, that's not the time to say, oh, I meant to tell you. Assist in designing a program that's tailored to your farming operation. And as I said, what they don't know can hurt you. Another thing that your insurance company can provide, and Libby touched on this a bit, is they have resources to assist policy holders with the liability assessment of their operations. I know myself, my company, we have a staff that actually will actually go out and provide that walkthrough and provide a hazard inspection or safety inspection, so to speak. The companies have general safety guidelines and checklists that they can provide you with so that you can do a self-assessment on your own. And they also have safety guidelines that they can provide for you that are tailored to a specific type of activity, whether it be a UPIC activity, whether it be an event venue, whether it be a hayride or whatever. And the most important thing is, I'll go back and say it again, I give this advice to every agritourism professional that I work with. Take an active role in your insurance program, partner with your agent and your insurance company to create a safe operation and also an insurance program that's going to respond like you anticipate it should respond in the event something does happen and you have to utilize that policy. There's my contact information. Again, I covered this very quickly. Feel free to reach out to me at any time if you have any questions. I'll be happy to help you. And that being said, I'm going to turn this back over to Heather.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Scott. Lots of great information for us to think about and process. I didn't mention this earlier, but we will be sending the slides out to those that are participating with us today. That way you have, and make sure you've got everybody's contact information for continued conversation with these fabulous resources. All right, without further ado, we have Miss Candace Monaghan, who is the founder of the Windhaven Farm Sunflower Festival. Candace, take it away.
All right, let me see if I can get this to work. Might have to get you to pull it up and go through it, Heather. Oh, hold on. Did that come up for you?
Not yet.
I'll just get you to do it.
Okay.
Not sure what happened.
No worries.
Hold on. Now I've lost you. Okay, there we go.
Going. Can you guys see that? Okay, super. Let me get this going.
And while Heather's getting that going, I'm just going to basically talk today about how our festival was started, our family farm, and then kind of where we've gone and how we've grown throughout the years. So I guess in the beginning, our family, are you ready, Heather?
I'm ready. Can you see that?
Yes, if you want to go ahead to the
perfect. Whoops. I got too far.
Perfect. So our family had a dairy farm, and we started that in 1927, and they milked Holstein and Jersey cross cows twice a day, between 105 and 120 at any given time. And we did this up until 2019. We had bottle calves that we would feed. That was part of my job, and my two little ones, we'd go out and feed them twice a day. And then workers on the farm were my father and my brother, or now it's my father and my brother. And then we have family friends that stop by and lend a hand here and there. And in September of 2019 was when we milked the last bunch of cattle, and they were actually shipped to a farm in Pennsylvania, and that kind of ended our 92-year dairy business. So if you want to go to the next slide, Heather, there we go. So that's a little bit about the dairy. In 2015, my dad, for whatever reason, decided that he just wanted to plant sunflowers just because he liked them. He had no other reason. We had a field that didn't have anything in it at the time. But we had to ask ourselves, since sunflowers are mainly grown out west, would they take to the soil and the climate? We knew that we had the machinery that we needed to plant them. So in the first week of July of 2015, we planted 20 acres of black oil sunflowers. So our biggest, question was answered. Yes, they grew. They also grew a lot of attention from the community. We had a lot of people that would come up and ask if they could take pictures with the flowers. Once they bloomed, we were kind of, asking ourselves, well, now what do we do? So I started researching, and basically we found that we could harvest them for birdseed or oil. Birdseed was the easiest kind of route to take. We had the combine that we needed to harvest them. So we harvested and started turning the sunflowers into birdseed. So that first year we did 40-pound bags. I'm a graphic designer, so I'm able to design the labels that go on the bags. And then we have a guy in Harrisonburg just up the road that we work with, and he cleans all of the seed for us, puts them in a bag, labels them, puts them on a pallet, and then we pick up the pallets and bring them all back to the stores that sell them for us. And we have stores in Botetourt County and surrounding counties that sell those for us. So in September of 2016 is kind of when the festival came about. We planted in July again, and I was having a meeting with my dad about general farm stuff, and I said, I think we could invite people out to see these sunflowers. And he said, that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard. He, like most farmers, didn't like people wandering around his property. He liked to deal with his animals and his crops and go about his day. So he was not thrilled about, the possibility of people wandering around his place. And so the flowers were about 2 weeks out from blooming when I approached him with this idea. So we sent this picture here to our agronomist and said, this is what they look like now. And they looked at it and got back with us, and they told us that if we were going to have this festival, that the maximum, in order to hit the maximum bloom time, that we needed to have the festival in 14 days. So once a sunflower blooms, it's only open for 8 to 10 days before it starts to drop its head. So the window is very short that you want to try to hit that bloom time, right? So they're at their peak and their prettiest. So with that being said, I knew that we had, only 2 weeks to kind of advertise that what we were going to do. So there was little in time to form the public. But luckily we were able to get the word out. Nowadays with social media being a huge presence for advertising, we had some TV stations that we did some interviews with, some newspaper articles, and then word of mouth around the community to help spread the word of what we were going to do. So that first year, the social media really took off. We started a Facebook page and announced that we were having this festival. And right away, we made the 10 unique fall festivals in Virginia list, which was pretty exciting. And then we were able to keep everybody informed so easily, just being on Facebook and Instagram. So with our 2016 festival, we obviously had the 20 acres of flowers to see, but we wanted to add a little bit more than just the flowers. So we had face painting. We had the pumpkin train that you see here. We borrowed that from a local corn maze, so we could use that to give the kids some rides. We brought up some of our calves and ponies for a petting area. We contacted a local high school FFA so they could provide food and water. Our family made cookies and cakes so we could have bake sale. And then we placed kind of our equipment out and about around the area so people could walk up to it and see it. A lot of people come to these events, but they don't see the machinery that plants them or the machinery that harvests them or just everyday equipment that you use on a farm. And then of course we had the sunflowers that visitors could walk around and through. So our 2016 results, I was hoping that we could have 300 people out that day. That was kind of the goal that I wanted to hit. And at the end of the day, we ended up with over 1,600 people. We had 11 states that were accounted for. And then the picture there on the left is of my dad. And he was standing in the field and cutting flowers for people that wanted to take some with them. And he just had that look on his face of, what is going on? Like, look at these people here in my field. And I kind of always go back to that picture just because it's a good reminder to me of how far we've come and just the look of, we did this kind of on his face. So moving forward to our 2017 festival, after that first event, we kind of thought, well, I think we'll do this again. Everybody was on board. And so we started adding things to the festivals. For 2017, we added 30 handmade crafters and food vendors. So for our crafters, everything has to be handmade. It kind of gives it that local farm feel. And then I try to keep it so we don't have 10 candle makers and, there's very limited amounts of each type of vendor. So the vendors can get their largest profit possible also. We went from the train that we borrowed to a hayride that could hold 20 people. So we could get more people on that at a time. I designed festival t-shirts and we had those printed on site so people could go up and purchase what size they need and take it home with them. We added photo booths like the love sign there, which was very popular so people could go up and take pictures with it. And we had chairs that they could sit in with hay bales and pumpkins to take photos with. That year we expanded to 2 days and we grew to 10,000 people in attendance in those 2 days. So we were all very happy after that first real year of our festival. So 2018, we kept expanding. We went to 2 weekends. So we found out how to alter the planting a little bit so it would be beautiful for one weekend and then still be pretty for the next weekend also. I had a business approach me about being a sponsor. So that kind of opened doors for approaching other businesses about sponsors to help pay for the parking crew that we hire and the bands that we hire. We added a second hayride so we could get more people, so the lines won't be so long for the hayride. We could get more people on. Music we have on Sundays. So we have 2 different bands, one in the morning and one in the afternoon on Saturdays. We added goat yoga, which is a photo down in the bottom right corner. The company comes and sets up fences and the goats are there and they go around everybody while they're doing yoga and they can cuddle with the babies. And that's just something different, but everybody loves it. We usually have about 60 people in attendance per yoga session that we have. We added a sunflowers at sunset dinner. So this gives people the option to come. That first year, it was set up a little differently. We had tables and we accommodated about 80 people. We had about 80 people for that dinner and we had 2 of those. And that's in the evening and it's catered by a local church. So people can see the sunset, they can have dinner, they can walk around the field and not have, a lot of other people with them. We had a preschool day. So we invited preschools out and had like a field trip day. And then we also had a senior citizen and special needs day. And the special needs day specifically, a lot of those children or adults can't get around during those crowds, or maybe they have issues with being around so many people. So this day allowed us to have just them there. They could pull up closer and park. They could get on the hayride that they might not be able to do, to wait in line. And that was a very rewarding day to have for them. And then we also grew our vendors more. So in 2019, we created a kids coloring book. So I was able to take pictures from the festival and draw them and then write a little book that we could pass out to schools. So it not only helped with advertising because it went home to every school in the county, but it helped get the word out and give the kids something to do. We hosted a Little Miss Sunflower pageant, so the girls could dress up in their cute little outfits, and they got to walk across stage, and we had goodie bags for those that participated. We started offering high school scholarships, so one scholarship to each high school in the county, and that goes to someone that's interested in the agriculture field for college. We took seed packets and had seed packets produced. So if people want to purchase our seeds to plant, those are available. We added a second sunflower dinner that year. We added a paint night. So kind of like the goat yoga, people could come to the paint night and paint in the evening and have a smaller crowd. We grew our vendors. We launched our website, which has a lot of information on it about the farm, the festival, what we offer our vendors that sign up every year. And by 2019, our attendance had doubled to 20,000 attendants. So for 2020, some additions, we added some cloggers. We had a group come up and they like going around and clogging in the local community. So they came and set up on our stage where we usually have our music and did several performances. We had a local beekeeper that has hives. So he came and set his hives up, and we had exclusive sunflower honey. So the hives were set up before the flowers started blooming. And then once they bloomed, they were up until October, the 1st of November. And then we harvested that honey and sold. We started a quarterly newsletter so we can keep people informed all throughout the year and kind of keep the momentum going to try and, not just be around in September, but be around all year long and in front of people. Not only do we do our high school scholarships, but we have business scholarships as well. And those are just for small nonprofits in the community that we feel like we want to give back to and help them out. And then we did grow to 80 vendors in 2020. Even with the pandemic, people wanted to get out. They were tired of being at home. We were outside, so, it was good for us to be able to spread out. And so we did see a growth in our vendors, and we did have 22 states that were accounted for that last year. So we obviously had some 2020 obstacles, and Livvy mentioned a few of these also, but, with social distancing, we had to figure out how to still be able to have the festival, but do it in a safe manner. So we ended up limiting time frames. Livvy mentioned online tickets. So we moved to online ticket sales, and people could purchase a ticket for a 2-hour time frame. And we followed the guidelines as far as how many people could be on the property at one time and sold that amount of tickets. And then we had a few tickets that people could purchase at the gate to get in. And we literally counted people as they left. And then those people that were purchasing cash tickets, we let them in when we were able to. They might have had to wait, 5 or 10 minutes, but on a normal year, that's what you're probably waiting in line to get in anyway. We did do extra cleaning. We had hand sanitizing stations all around. We would wipe down like the gates that the children might be leaning against if they were looking at the animals. We added 2 more hours to our day. So we opened an hour early and we stayed open an hour late, which allowed us to have more time frames throughout the day. But on a good note, we also realized, oh, well, we can do that in the future. And same thing with the online ticket sales. We'll continue to stick with online ticket sales for the future because it cut down on time that people were waiting in the line. It cut down on us having so much cash in our drawers. So good did come of all of these changes that we ended up having to go through. Some general obstacles that we face and that we tend to face every year. A lot of agritourism is definitely about educating the public. So I think, like what Livvy said, common sense is dead. So, we have signs up, this is a crop, do not pick. But what a lot of people don't know is that it's a crop because, you know, not only do we sell the flower at the festival, but then we harvest it for the birdseed. So if everybody comes in and picks a flower, that's going to put a big dent in, you know, our end bottom line as far as our birdseed and our flowers that we sell. So we do try to educate people that we're not just being mean. You know, we've seen people that they'll pick a flower and they'll stick it down in their purse to try to get out the gate with it. Well, by the time you get to your car, I hate to tell you, but all your petals are going to be off of your flower, and then you're going to probably throw it down. So purchase one that you can carry around and that can be pretty and that you can get home and set in a vase and enjoy for the next week. So like I said, the flowers are not only used for the festival, but for the birdseed. And then we do have florists that come and, you know, will purchase 100 at a time or so and take back and use for a week for their bouquets. No trespassing. We do have a lot of issues, well, up until 2020. So you know, you have to be nice, but you have to be forceful, also, I guess. And every year we would catch people trespassing. You know, they would walk right past the no trespassing signs and into the fields. And I've had people tell me that they thought VDOT planted the flowers, that they thought they could just walk through them, that they didn't see signs. So I took a little extra time in 2020 and put up an electric fence. And needless to say, we had no trespassers that year. And we are a working farm, so we try to make sure people are safe. You know, we don't want them trespassing, obviously, because we don't want them to hurt the crop, but we don't want them to hurt themselves. So, you know, we don't want them to fall in that hole that might be there, or, you know, if they're cutting corn and step in front of a moving piece of equipment, like we just want everybody to be safe. So informing and educating is definitely something we try to do. So I try to, like I mentioned with the coloring books, do year-round marketing. The September is our open month, so that's our biggest month, but you know, I want them to know what's going on all year long. So like I said, we designed a quarterly newsletter, and people can register for that on our website, and then that's emailed out on quarterly. I try to post to Facebook and Instagram once a week. So in September of 2020, we had 1.46 million page reaches on Facebook. I'm not a numbers person, but when I see numbers like that, I get pretty excited, because that's a pretty big deal to know that you've reached that many people with your event. And it's pretty outstanding to me. So we have an activity book. I mentioned we did that coloring book a few years ago. This year we have an activity book. So it's brand new, and it has more items in it about how the flower grows, and every part of the sunflower can be used, for instance, from the stem to the leaves to the roots. So it has a page that has the flower, and the kids can mark like the roots. This is what the roots do of the sunflower. So they can, you know what the parts of the flower do. And there's a word search in it. So it's a little more activity oriented. And that is going to go home through the help of sponsors in the community. That's going to go home to every child in Botetourt County this year, again, also come September. And then another way that we are doing year-round marketing this year is we've put together a photography exhibit, and that has flowers from the past festival. And that's going to be, as far as right now, in Buchanan and the Allegheny Highlands, Blacksburg, and Charlottesville. So far, we've gotten booked up until August. So that'll just help keep the momentum flowing, hopefully give visitors something to look at all year long, and hopefully they'll see it and then they'll want to come see them in person in September. Some partnerships that we have. We work closely with VBR, and I know you'll be able to hear Catherine talk shortly. And they, list us on their website, and it gives us definitely a high reaching potential. So we work closely with them and have the past few years. News stations, usually I'll reach out to them or they'll reach out to me. So last year we had 7 different interviews on over 3 stations. So if your older community might not be on Instagram or Facebook or social media in general, this is a good chance to reach them. Paper and magazines, you know, a lot of us don't use those anymore as far as, you know, subscribe to the newspaper. But once again, that'll help reach that community that you might not reach on social media. And we had 3 papers and 2 magazines that we were in this past year. And then our online subscriptions, the Bottom Bee, for instance, she, you know, puts things online because she's not in print, so that helps. And you know, the best thing about all of these is all of that's free. Make sure you reach out to VBR and be listed on their website. It doesn't cost anything. News channels, for their interviews, they always want something different. They want to hear about your events. Nisi Payne is huge in promoting agriculture, and none of that costs anything. So for free advertisement to reach that many people is definitely something that you want to check into. So I think we're saving questions to the end. And then our contact information, I believe, Heather, is the next slide. So if anybody needs to reach out, there's all of our information, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Candace. I'm always amazed at all the things that you've done, from this idea that started in 2 weeks before a festival and where you are today. It's just incredible.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. All right, and next we have Catherine Fox with Visit Virginia's Blue Ridge to kind of round out our presenter, excuse me, and to talk a little bit more about the partnerships and opportunities that she and her team bring to the table for us.
Hi, everybody. And
Candace?
oh, it's great to be here today. Hopefully, can you hear me, Heather? Can you hear me? Okay, great. And I'll get ready to share my screen. Just want to compliment everybody. You know, being part of agritourism, I know can be very challenging at times, but it's really something that Candace, for example, has set herself apart. And really, how many other sunflower festivals are there? She's very accessible off of Interstate 81. How many people in a family have an incredible farm and a graphic designer who live under the same roof? That's huge too. And you know, and staying in touch with people is so important. And as part of a destination marketing organizations, one of the things I'd like to compliment you for, and I wish that I can find it, is your Christmas card that you sent. It was such an incredible reminder about the pandemic, but it was such a great way to reflect on what we've all been through in 2020, and a beautiful view and scenery of your farm. I just want to compliment you and really set the stage for what we wanted to do to share that message out with our partners. So really compliment you for that as well.
Thank you.
So thank you. And as Candace was saying, VBR is short for Virginia's Blue Ridge. And we are a destination marketing organization. And there are destination marketing organizations all across Virginia. And we work closely with the Virginia Tourism Corporation. Let me see if I can work towards sharing my screen really quickly here. Tell me what you see, Heather. Do I need to switch? Do I need to switch it, or can you see it?
I see your slides. If you want to,
yep.
Let's see, get to this.
That work? Or do I need
there we
to
go.
switch? Do I need to, do you see the one or do you see 2 slides?
I think I see 2. So I think if you click on the display settings, that may transition.
I'm going to swap and see if that did it for us.
There we go.
Okay,
Perfect.
great. Because technology is rarely my friend. Again, thank you all for allowing me to be part of this conversation today, and the opportunity and hearing Scott earlier talk about all the opportunities in agritourism and the diversification. I just want to say that, you know, from wineries to, you know, I heard the wedding venues, to all sorts of seasonal activities, tree farms. There's so many opportunities to diversify, and tourism plays an incredible role in helping potentially what you're doing, and it helps us bring more visitors to a region, and then ultimately helps us all. So because that revenue helps you and it helps the region, and overall helps the entire state. It's such a welcoming opportunity. I love the Virginia is for sunflower lovers. That's another great opportunity. This is my contact information should anyone have questions moving forward. Happy to answer any questions. Again, there are multiple destination marketing organizations around the state who you can partner with, and we just want to give you an example of how we do that here in our region. Just to give you some background, Virginia's Blue Ridge is based in our 2 cities and 3 counties. That is our footprint. We represent the cities of Salem and Roanoke, and also the counties of Botetourt, Franklin County, and Roanoke County. We have about 1,500 partners that we work with, which really helps us tell our story on our website and really encouraging visitors with so many great things to see and do within the region. But we are so very aware that small businesses make up our destination, and that's what keeps us a vibrant and attractive to visitors. And it's important that we all work together to generate that visitor demand and that growth. As a partner with a destination marketing organization, some of the things that we offer, because you are a business perhaps within our footprint, the 2 cities and 3 counties, as Candace mentioned earlier, be very active with getting your information on the tourism websites. Make sure your events are listed. And interestingly, you can put your wedding venue in there, and that becomes a unique venue when we host meetings or events. So it's important to have all of that listed as well. We have a toolkit. Your messaging and our messaging sort of go hand in hand, and leveraging your marketing dollars, trying to take what you have, no matter what the amount, and leveraging your messaging through our ability to take it out a little further. And then we work in product development. Just what Candace did was to take what was already an incredibly operating farm and diversifying that product. And we're always looking for new transportation projects, potentially new hotel projects. We're looking to bring in new large events that would then take advantage of some of the things in the area. So we're always looking at new product development for tourism to continually grow. We are an extension of social media. This is something that has really gone well for us. I'll explain a little bit more about that. Especially during the pandemic, social media has become more and more visible. It's something that we find that folks are going to more and more because they're homebound. Partner referrals, we do have a visitor center. So again, keeping your information relevant with our team through that aspect, and then making sure that we can refer them whenever there's events going on or activities. And networking, we do work collaboratively with our 1,500 partners to offer them networking, especially whether it's by virtually and hopefully very soon in person. And then also it's important to work with your tourism leaders, your elected officials. For example, I'm sure that Candace has taken the time to actually reach out to the elected officials in Botetourt County and invite them to come out to the event. And that's just so important because they can be your advocates and continue to advocate for you in so many different arenas. So how does tourism benefit a region? And it's a lot of components made up into an inviting and attractive package. When we're inviting visitors and travelers and families and couples and family reunions, weddings here, we're encouraging them to do everything they can possibly do while they're here. And that's what's important, is to outline those activities to them, whether it is shopping or an event or a brewery or going to our outdoors and enjoying some of our kayaking, canoeing, and so on. But ultimately, it creates jobs. It creates payroll, sales tax, meals tax, and lodging tax revenues, which then benefits that locality. And that's what's really drives home revenue source for our schools and much of our governments needing these additional funds and revenues to operate. Just to give you an example of what Virginia's Blue Ridge in our the 5 localities in that footprint. In 2019, we were able to derive through direct travel expenditures $920 million. Again, that's pretty high up there. But when you start looking at those top employers, like Carillion, for example, the healthcare system here, they have about 10,000 employees. You can't really say that is in one building for tourism. It's in multiple buildings and multiple arenas. So our employment does reach up there pretty high, over 8,000. You can see our payroll and tax collections. So this is a pretty significant way to develop that revenue for a region, and tourism is such a big part of all of Virginia. Target markets. When you work with your destination marketing organization, know their target markets. Who are they going after? How can you potentially go after that same market? And what we're doing is, we know drive markets are huge right now. Obviously, through the pandemic, that's where we are relying most of our key marketing initiatives to go, most of which are online, but nothing really moving forward as much as we would normally, just because of the pandemic. We want to understand the actual playing field here, in that we want to invite people here, but do it very subtly when it's time. For us, our drive markets are Richmond, the Tidewater area, Winston-Salem, Greensboro, Charlotte. So those drive markets are very key to us, and those are the markets that we're constantly looking at. How can we really hook them to come to our region? Digital assets for Virginia's Blue Ridge. We had in 2020 about 1.3 million unique visitors come to our website, which, again, if we didn't have unique content like the Sunflower Festival, everything that happens within this region, we're always trying to take that unique content and really turn it into a way to draw people to our website, which we funnel everyone to. In addition, we have a number of folks who follow our Facebook, as well as Instagram has really become more and more popular, especially with all of the images that people being outside have been able to post. And you can see that actually, if you see in the Instagram, you can actually see a picture of the Sunflower Festival listed there. We have an e-newsletter that we're keeping folks up to date and just keeping them engaged in what's happening in our region. We also do a blog that's been very popular, and we just started a podcast series. So these are things that we think are very viable to hit and reach various market segments. YouTube videos are still very popular, as well as obviously Twitter continues to be popular. And then using our hashtag Trailsetter for Virginia's Blue Ridge. So it's all, again, about engaging and tagging social media. It's a great way to learn more about new features, and it helps us stay informed. So sharing this with your audiences through our hashtags is extremely important. And again, it keeps us engaged, and it helps to increase your exposure. We have dedicated website landing pages, again, for events. So it could be, Candace could be on our website as a featured event. She would also be in the calendar of events where people are looking for a specific month. We also encourage people who are developing events to go to our calendar, so that if they are planning a brand new festival, look to see what else is going on that weekend. I certainly would want to complement what Candace is doing, but not add a new event on that same weekend. So we encourage people to check those events and see what's happening during that time frame. It's important that if you are potentially hosting an event, add a link to the lodging for your region. I think that's incredibly important. Again, using Candace as an example, we've developed a regional landing page just for Botetourt that only incorporates Botetourt amenities, overnights, things to do, attractions, things like that. So you can really hone in on developing that regional landing page as part of your website and encouraging people to stay longer in the region. In terms of our website statistics for 2020, we had, again, 1.3 million unique users come to our website. We had 1.6 in 2019, but we feel like we did pretty well to stay relevant and sustain our audience. Total visits we had in sessions 1.7, and then there are the page views. But what I find really interesting is mobile has really started to pick up in terms of where people are accessing this information. So mobile devices are getting to be very, very big. So whatever you do in terms of websites or what have you, do be sure that they are mobile friendly, because that can really make a difference. But more people are accessing your information through mobile ways and really just making sure that your platforms work. Just amplifying messaging with social media and Instagram and Facebook. I went ahead and grabbed a couple of screenshots here of what we did to post alongside of the Sunflower Festival and make sure that we're engaging our audience with what Candace is doing. So again, just getting some great information out there. And you can see that we tagged in there Botetourt County as well. So again, we're just trying to make the entire weekend something that would encourage folks to stay longer. Again, our focus as a destination marketing organization is to get people to spend the night and spend more money. And that helps with the lodging tax revenue, and it does help for the locality as well. So what Candace is doing is bringing people to the region, which then helps in a lot of other segments within the tourism industry. Again, mentioning our blog post. So this is always important too, because this is identified very much specific to this event, because she's found a way to set herself aside from all other events. This is so unique to the area. We were very much in line with her messaging because we knew this was the first time she was telling people that you couldn't just show up, you had to buy tickets online. And that information was very key to what we wanted to get out there so that people did not have an experience where they were not available at that point. So the online part was new messaging, and we wanted to make sure we were going alongside of that. As Candace mentioned, the local media is very important to keep informed. I've already had WFXR, which is our Fox affiliate, and our NBC affiliate, WSLS, looking to our events calendar to start doing specifically ahead of schedule. They want to do these day trips, and they're looking for ideas on getting people to come on and do interviews. So they're always looking at our website as a resource to develop story ideas. In addition, we also work with external media. So if there's a media, somebody who's with, let's say it's a publication in Atlanta or in Charlotte, or a news media outlet in the DC area, and they want to cover stories in our region, we pitch them story ideas. So this is something else that we do, and we want to make sure that if we're aware or not aware, it's helpful to keep us informed so that we can make sure we're pitching your story to media, both locally and externally. So I think that's important too. Lastly, I just want to mention that along with the pandemic, we have started what's called the Stay Safe Pledge. And in that regard, we are asking and have asked over 200, 300 partners have signed on to help with that messaging, to say, you're welcome to come to our region and to Virginia's Blue Ridge, but we ask you to please adhere to the guidelines and wear your mask where it is, obviously, especially if you're going into a restaurant, or if you're going into retail, or if you're going into hotels, to please adhere to those guidelines. We welcome you here, but we want you to please adhere to those restrictions and those guidelines. So we started our Stay Safe Pledge. With that, I know our time is close. So Heather, I'm gonna just finish again. This is my contact information. Again, excited to have the opportunity to be able to present with you today, alongside you today, and appreciate all that is taken into account when it comes to agritourism and what you've been able to do to help bring people to our region and to our state. And I will
Thank you.
Stop sharing.
Go ahead. Thank you so much, Catherine. That was super helpful. It's amazing that when we all collaborate, that motto of the all boats rise, if you will. All right, I'm going to stop